Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 10 of season 2026, and footy is back as of today at time of release of this episode. Opening round kicks off tonight, so footy is officially back. We've got 5 games coming up this weekend, and we're going to be previewing all 5 matches. We'll go through everything you need to know, and hopefully find you 5 winners to start your footy season off with a bang. Big weekend of footy coming up, so we're going to be going through all of that. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that follow button or subscribe, depending on what platform you're listening and watching this on. It goes on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts twice a week. Every Monday we do a review episode, and every Thursday is a preview episode of the upcoming round. So make sure you come back, check out all of the content. We also have plenty of other content all over the internet, all over social media, everywhere. All Aussie Rules. Just look for the logo, you'll find us. That's pretty much the back end stuff, or everything you need to know about who we are. I'm John. This is year 3 of the podcast. Hopefully the biggest and best yet. So that's everything about me. Let's jump into footy, what we got planned. We're going to go through each matchup one by one, find you hopefully some important bits of knowledge for each game, and then we'll jump into our footy tips at the end of the episode. And yeah, we'll go through all of that and see what we can find for you. Let's jump into game number 1 of the weekend. It kicks us off on Thursday night, which is tonight if you're watching this at time of release. It's tomorrow at time of recording. Sydney Swans Carlton, and this is a game to watch. I'm looking forward to this. Obviously last year opening round was a bit of a false start, sort of. We only had the 2 games in the end, the 2 Sydney based matches. Sydney Hawthorn kicked us off in the end. This year Sydney v Blues, and these 2 teams made some swaps in the trades part of the season last year. Obviously, Charlie Curnow leaving Carlton and heading up to Sydney. And going the other way, Will Hayward and Ollie Florent both joining the Blues, having been Swans previously. It's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. Who was the winner of that trade? I'm sure most people have an opinion on it. And I mean, overall, you'd have to think probably Sydney getting a key forward is what they needed the most, I think, on paper at least. And pre-season, it's looked all right, but Carlton have also been playing very good so far in this pre-season. So it shapes up like a really, really good start to the AFL season. A game that should hopefully live up to expectations. Some star players on both teams, big midfields, some key forwards, pretty much everything you want to see in a game of football. Hopefully coming up this weekend. History of this matchup, these 2 teams at least. 6-4 Sydney's way over the last 10, so not much of a difference. Sydney did win the last 2. Both of their last 2 matchups have been mid-season matchups over the last 2 years. They've only been playing each other once a year. And Sydney got both of them reasonably comfortably in 2024, but obviously that was the year Sydney dominated the competition through the home and away season. And then 2025, they didn't dominate it, won it by 16 points in round 10, but I mean, that's still solid enough win. Especially seeing Sydney didn't do great last year, but I mean, neither did Carlton. So make of that what you will. Going back further than that, it kind of evens out. Obviously, 4-4 across the previous 8 matches, including a 2023 elimination final in which Carlton knocked out Sydney in that run where Carlton made it through to the prelim final. So that's the history of this matchup. I mean, we don't have any 2026 stats, obviously, yet. Neither team has played. No team has played. So we kind of have to go off last year's numbers. Pre-season numbers are pretty unreliable. Wouldn't read too much into all of that. I think Carlton showed some really good signs in pre-season, but so did Sydney. looking at last year's numbers, both of these teams probably have a lot of difference in the way they're going to play this year. Obviously, Sydney get Errol Goulden back. He did play the back half of the year, but that was when they looked their best all year. So that's a really good positive sign or start to Sydney's campaign. Chuck in the fact that now they have that number one key forward, which not only allows them to have a better number one key forward, but it also probably loosens up the other two, who were 1 and 2, to now be second and third, and maybe have an easier time of it. So I think that really shapes up this forward line nicely. They've got 3 players that they bought in from other clubs last year, and they're all going to be playing today. So that's Jai Sarong, it's Charlie Curnow, and it's Malcolm Rosales from Gold Coast. I don't know why I nearly forgot his name. So they went out, they recruited, they got what they wanted and what they needed in a lot of ways, and they've kind of filled those holes. So I think that really shapes up nicely for this Sydney Swans team. Their midfield's obviously as good as most, just about any other team. Heaney, Warner, Brodie Grundy, James Rowbottom, heavily underrated. Didn't have the best 2025, but if he can get back to 2024 form, that'll be huge for this Sydney team. Chuck in Errol Goulden, who plays wing / inside mid, depending on what they want and what they need at the time. It's just a really solid midfield crew that deliver the ball really well to their forward line. So I think Charlie Curnow will really appreciate that, especially if Errol Goulden gets loose and has 30 touches and delivering the ball inside 50. Watch out. Other side of the fence, I guess Carlton have made a few changes as well. There's more so as much on the young side of things as on the old and recruiting side. Obviously, they did bring in two players from Sydney in Florent and Hayward, who are both going to be playing. Ben Ainsworth also joining the group. So they do have 3 players there, plus Campbell Chesser, who is a young player, obviously played a little bit over at West Coast, and Liam Reedy has also joined as a ruck here. So they have kind of got a massively different team than we've seen at any other point for Carlton. Chuck in a couple young players, Harry Dean, who was their number 1 draft pick this year, at pick 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 or whatever it was that they ended up picking. I can't even remember. He was really good. Might have been 2, was it? I don't know. But father-son, he looks like a key defender that, I mean, he will be good. There's a long way to go, obviously. Day 1, game 1, as a key defender is never going to be easy, but if he can get it eased in and start getting some good game time, that will only benefit them in the long run. And chuck in Jagger Smith. There's been, I mean, everyone's talking about him already, obviously, because of what he did last week in the practice game, after missing all of last season through injury. As we've been saying for more than 12 months now, he is the best ball winner from his draft class. There's no doubt about that. That's fact. This is not going to be an easy midfield to break into. Obviously, you've already got Hewitt, Walsh, Paddy Cripps in there, plus other players rotating through. But he'll get his opportunity probably as that 4-4-5 rotating midfielder. Early days, he can rack them up, so he will be one to watch. Certainly if you're playing fantasy or super coach, he's certainly one that you have to have in your team. Doesn't start this week, obviously, but he will be one that you definitely need in your team. I don't know if there's any real shocks in the lineup for Carlton in this one. Wiedering is playing. Obviously, he's had some injury concerns after the Origin game, but he is going to be out there. Him matched up against Charlie Curnow, you would imagine, based on what this kind of team looks like. And then you're probably thinking Lewis Young to Joel Amati maybe, or Logan McDonald and then Harry Dean to the other one of those. Sydney are playing the 3 key forwards. So Carlton are also going to have 3 key defenders, which they've got. and that'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. Obviously, Mitch McGovern also can kind of play key defence. Up the other end, the matchups, we'll see how that shapes up. No Charlie Curnow anymore kind of opens up that forward line a little bit in many ways. Harry Mackay will be up there. Sydney kind of lacking key defenders as well. Tom McCartan obviously will probably go to one of Mackay or Kemp. They'll want Blakey running off the back line, so Lewis Melican probably goes to the other one, with Rampy maybe taking the third, potentially. Overall, it looks like a pretty good matchup on paper. I'm looking forward to seeing how it shapes up because obviously, as I said, both these teams have changed in personnel quite a bit over the off-season, especially Carlton. Obviously, they had a big shake-up from last year. Last year was a bad year for them, there's no doubt about it. But a big reason, I think, for their poor form last year was the start of the season. They were 40 points up against Richmond and then fell apart and lost that game. From that point on, for the next few weeks at least, up until basically gather round when they finally got an easy matchup against West Coast, they really struggled, and that's probably got a lot to do with momentum and just a lack of confidence that first game took out of them. So starting well this season with this game is very, very important for them. They could win quite a few games early season. They don't have the hardest start to the season. So if they can get out of the blocks well here, win this one, or at least put up a really good fight, that would be really, really big for this team. Something that we kind of pointed towards through most of this preseason was what teams are going to be playing two rucks. I think we'll see it a lot more this year than we've seen in previous seasons. Carlton have gone for that first game, so they've gone Pittoday as their starting ruck with Liam Reedy on the bench. 5 on the bench this year kind of has allowed teams to maybe play two rucks. Plus the change in the ruck rules has kind of changed the powers of who's the best ruckman in the competition in many regards. I still think Maxi Gawn will be right up there. But Brodie Grundy has shown he's been really good through the preseason with the new rules, but so has Pittoday, in my opinion. I think he's been really good. So it's going to be a good little battle, that one, with Pittoday and Reedy against Brodie Grundy, who will get support from his probably Joel Amartey maybe as the backup ruckman, I would say. Good matchup. I like it on paper. It should be an interesting one. Who will win it? I guess we'll find out over the weekend. But the numbers suggest, in many ways, that Sydney should, based on last year's numbers. But it's a big unknown in many ways. I'll be trusting the gut, I think, of the numbers that we do have to say that Sydney probably win this. I think both of these teams have potentially improved. I was a little bit hesitant on Carlton heading into the preseason. They've shown some really good signs though, and I think this team is starting to look okay. I don't think they're going to be fighting top 8, but maybe a wildcard sort of entry maybe into finals. We'll see. There's a lot of water to go under that bridge, but I think they're shaping up better than maybe we kind of looked at expecting them to be maybe 3-4 weeks ago. So that's a positive sign. I think it'll be a really good start to the season. Thursday night football should be a cracker, so we'll check that one out. Moving on to Friday night football. This is up at People First Stadium. Gold Coast v Geelong. This will be another big game. These two teams did meet just the once last year, and Geelong got the win. It was down at the Cattery mid-season, round 13. They won 61-37. Obviously, both teams made it finals. Gold Coast got bundled out in a semi-final against Brisbane, and Geelong made it to the grand final before falling over at the final hurdle against the Brisbane Lions. So Brisbane did knock both of these teams out. The history says overall 7-3 in the last 10 in favour of Geelong, but since the start of 2023, the home team has won all 3 of these matchups. So that points towards Gold Coast in a way. 2024 was the last time they met in a home game for Gold Coast, and Gold Coast won it 164 to 100. 2023 was 73 to 54. It looks very even on paper in overall scores, I think. Attacking wise, probably more Geelong's favour overall, I think. Defence is pretty similar. Both teams got some injury clouds at time of recording and at time of release of this episode as well. Teams have not been announced yet, so we don't know exactly what we're going to see from either team. There are injury concerns for both. Obviously, no Matt Rowell for Gold Coast is the main one for the Suns, whereas on Geelong's side, there's quite a few that are a bit iffy that we aren't 100% sure we're going to be seeing. There's Dangerfield, there's Jeremy Cameron, Bailey Smith, Brian Myers. All of these players are under injury clouds. All potentially could play, but also would not be surprised to see all four of them miss. I think Brian Myers is the least likely to play of them. The thing is, they do have a lot of depth. They do have a lot of players that can kind of move into different roles. Obviously, Myers, Manor, both kind of general forward midfielders. Bailey Smith, the accumulator, might be difficult to cover in some ways, but maybe that just means Ollie Dempsey gets more inside mid-time. Obviously, they did add Warple as well into this squad, who isn't a massive accumulator, but he could help take some of that load, I guess. Forward-wise, I mean, Jeremy Cameron's the one that they'll miss the most, I think, if he's not playing. We all know what he's capable of. He won the Coleman Medal last year. And, yeah, I mean, anytime you're missing somebody that's kicked 736 career goals, you're going to miss it if he's not on the park. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the two teams do line up, who plays, who doesn't, who's fit, who's not. Opening round is a bit of a lottery in many ways. It's also very difficult at times to make too much of it. You look at what happened last year in opening round. We only had the 2 games in the end. But Collingwood got absolutely smashed by GWS. Collingwood then won the next 8 games or something stupid and were sitting top of the ladder. So it's not the end of the world if you do go down in this first game. I think it's important to show something, but at the same time, if some of these players for Geelong aren't quite ready, maybe they're better off just sitting them out this week and give them another week to prepare for round 1, which I think they play Fremantle at home. So, which last year they absolutely smacked that contest. So maybe they're better off waiting another week with any line ball decisions. Maybe that's across the board for all 10 teams playing this weekend. We'll see. Obviously, 2 stacked midfields going at each other. Matt Rowell missing does kind of lower the Gold Coast midfield a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. I think Gold Coast did announce today that Zeke Hewland, their number 2 draft pick from last year, is going to be making his debut, so that will be interesting to see how he goes. It's also going to be interesting to see what they do with their forward line in this game. Does Jamara Ugle-Hagan play? There's a lot of things to go under the bridge before the teams are announced, and then how that shapes up and where that sits both teams. But it's a game that looks good. I'm looking forward to it. A couple midfielders, big midfields going at each other. Both teams really good offensively. Defensively, both teams pretty similarly ranked. Going on last year's numbers, Geelong do get the edge, but Gold Coast are probably the team that recruited a bit heavier over the off-season. Whether that pays dividends instantly or not, we'll see. But at the moment, I don't know. It's a bit of a line ball decision, but I think just the fact that it's on the Gold Coast, and there are probably a few more injury concerns for that Geelong team, I think we stick with Gold Coast to win this one at the moment. We move on to Saturday football. This will be GWS v Hawthorn, which is, of course, the elimination final rematch from last season. And what an interesting game that one was. Hawthorn dominated early. Halftime, they looked in control. GWS fought back in the third quarter, and then Hawthorn managed to run away again in the final quarter to end up winning by 19 points. They also met earlier in the year in a windy Launceston match where GWS kicked the first 5 with the wind in the first quarter. Hawthorn got back on level pegging at halftime, and then in the third and fourth quarter, Hawthorn kind of controlled the match in many ways. Only ended up winning by 12 points, but wasted probably a few opportunities. They were the 2 times they met last year. Both going Hawthorn's way. 2024, they played twice. They split them. And then before that, it was a bit of a good run for GWS, which isn't really a big surprise because you go back to early 2023 and before, early 2024 and before, sorry. And this Hawthorn team really struggled for about a 5-6 year period. So that's kind of where this matchup's been. Pretty even over the last little bit. Certainly until the last 4 matchups, 3 in favour of Hawthorn, 1 in favour of GWS. What else do we know from this game? Take from this game, I think. GWS probably, on paper, their backline's as good as Hawthorn's, but their numbers don't suggest the same. You also got to consider the fact that GWS are going to be missing an absolute ton of players. They're the most injury-riddled team at the moment in the AFL and potentially going to be for the whole season because they've already lost multiple players for the season. None bigger than Tom Green, 115 game star of the competition, and he's going to be missing the full season. So that's the first big one for GWS. Chucking like Finn Callahan in there, Josh Kelly. They're going to be relying on new recruit Clayton Oliver to join in and carry a fair bit of that load in their midfield. Also, it looks like Toby Green's probably going to be playing a fair bit of inside midfield time early season at least until they start to get some troops back. So we'll see how that shapes up. He's played mainly forward since just about like year 3 or something of his career. So, but he is someone that can play that forward, that midfield role quite well if needed. He was pretty solid in the preseason games playing that sort of role. No Cadman as well for GWS in this match. I just don't know if they have the troops at the moment to be able to get a game like this over Hawthorn, who are going to be coming in fired up, ready to go because while they do have a couple injury concerns, I guess, at Hawthorn, the only real one is Will Day out of their midfield, who's going to be missing the first half of the season, roughly. But they pretty much played all of last year without him. He only played 6 matches last year. He's missed a lot of football. He has the potential to be a star, and he showed, certainly opening round last year, he showed how good he can be. He was best on ground to start their season last year. But, yeah, I don't know if that's going to hurt them in this match because when you look at the injury list, Hawthorn certainly are the team that look fitter right now than GWS. What Hawthorn do with their lineup is going to be interesting. They look like a team that will be running the 2 rucks, is what I think we're looking at with the Lloyd Meek, Ned Reeves combo. Obviously, over the last 2-3 seasons, Lloyd Meek has been their number 1 ruck. He's earned that spot ahead of Ned Reeves. But this preseason, it looks like with the new rules, maybe Ned Reeves has caught that, at least closed that gap, but maybe even completely past him. Who knows? We'll see where they kind of sit once these games actually start. But on paper, it looks an interesting one. What else can we tell you from this game? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see how this injury-rattled GWS team shape up. It's not going to be an easy matchup for them because of that. But at the same time, they're a team that consistently has been overlooked in times over the last couple of years, but they just keep finding a way. So I certainly wouldn't write them off completely, but at the moment I think you got to go with a fit team, and that's going to be Hawthorn in this one. So that's Saturday evening game. They then jump into Sunday. Oh no, not Sunday. Saturday night football, and it's Brisbane v the Bulldogs. This will be the Gabba straight after the game at NG Stadium. Brisbane Bulldogs. What can we say about this? Obviously, back-to-back champions Brisbane against one of the best teams on paper that just hasn't been able to put it together on game day often enough over the last couple of years in the Western Bulldogs. A lot of people say glass cannons. They are a bit. I don't think it just seems that like against bad teams they're very consistently good, and then when they play good teams they're just a bit off the pace. That kind of seems what the story of the Bulldogs was last year. They only managed to beat one team that played finals last year, and that was GWS. They beat them twice. Every other team that played finals beat them every time they met them. So that's the hurdle that the Bulldogs have to get over, because last year they managed to beat every team below them on the ladder every single time. Absolutely smashed most of them most of the time. Like they were unlucky in some games. They lost a couple really close ones. Collingwood in round 2 was one of them. There was a couple others where they certainly had their opportunities, and it was just a couple late game moments that maybe changed the outcomes. But that's football. You got to take your moments, and the Bulldogs certainly didn't manage to do that in 2025. This is a really good opportunity though for them. I know it's Brisbane. I know it's the reigning champions up in Brisbane. There's a lot of things against them, but at the same time, maybe that's the best time to be playing against Brisbane, because what have we learnt from Brisbane over the last couple of years? Early season form doesn't matter too much. Look at them in 2024. At 2024. Stinking start to the season. Lost like 3 or 4 in a row to start. They were chasing their tail most of the season. They didn't finish top 4, and they just found form at the right time and went all the way to win the premiership. So they're a team that knows how to peak at the right time. They're a team that knows what they're doing. They have a lot of talent on this list, but once again, they do have a few injuries. So maybe that's another little point towards the Bulldogs, who will be fired up, I think, to come out and show the competition that they are the real deal. After what happened last year, they need to start beating teams that are going to be playing finals, and this is the perfect opportunity to start that. Bulldogs might have been the most impressive team in the preseason games last weekend. They were certainly close to it if they weren't. They played really well against Hawthorn. Some of their plays from the back line were great. Their midfielders all performed. They are missing Riley Sanders, who was really good in that game due to concussion. But they've got such a strong midfield. They've got really good forward line players. Their back line does leave some issues, but if Cummins can play as well as he did last week, maybe that will be a whole new look for this back line and this Bulldogs team as a whole. So, yeah, pleasantly optimistic that maybe we'll see a different Bulldogs this year. One more to what we kind of expect from a team that has such massive numbers, that has so many players that play such good games of football so regularly. So, yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts for this matchup. Brisbane on paper are absolutely the best team in the competition. They're a team that's won the last 2 premierships and have got stronger in pretty much every way possible over the off-season. Granted, they're not all ready to go just yet. There's some injury concerns. There's a few people that are a couple weeks off yet. But they're a team that has that much depth of players that they can cover most positions quite well. Outside of Harris Andrews, I think they can pretty much cover any other player that gets injured on the field. With reasonable ability, like a much higher ability than most pretty much like they'd have easy 30 players that would be getting at least a game with every other team in the competition. So it's crazy to think how deep and strong this team is, and has continued to get. So while they're probably not going to be at their peak just yet, it'll be interesting to see how they do start the season. Are they ready to go? Are they flying? This is a good little test for both teams. Pretty important. Probably more so on the side of the Bulldogs to show a really good performance here. No matter what happens with Brisbane in this game, they're still going to be my premiership favourites, no matter what happens on Saturday night. It would take an absolute miracle like them losing by 50 points and maybe a team like Gold Coast or Sydney absolutely looking unstoppable. But yeah, as it is, I think Brisbane are the team to beat. Probably the safe pick in this game, but you can never write off the Bulldogs, in my opinion. They just have so much talent on this list that you'd be crazy to write them off as not a chance in this one. We move on to Sunday Night Football at the MCG. Yes, we've got a game in Victoria for opening round for the first time, and it's St Kilda hosting Collingwood. It's talked up as the biggest home and away crowd St Kilda have ever played in front of. I mean, we haven't got there yet, but that's what they're expecting. And it's going to be huge. It's a huge occasion. It's going to be a fascinating match. Last year numbers are very irrelevant in this St Kilda team. I think they've just changed so much. They've recruited massively. Their best 23 looks nothing like it did last year. Obviously, De Koning comes into it. Flanders comes into it. They also have Jack Silvani will be into their best 23. And who's the one I'm missing? I'm missing one. Liam Henry will also go into their best 23. So they're just a very different lineup than they were last year. There's just no doubt about it. It's a team that has strengthened multiple areas. They've spent big to strengthen this team. Does that pay dividends? It should. It looks like it will. They look like they're ready to go already as well. So that does help us as well. I don't think they have too many massive injury concerns at the moment. They look like they're pretty fit. It looks like their best players are flying. Nashai Wanganeen-Malira, his pre-season's been great. We've seen Windhager drop back to that half-back flank and look pretty solid. We've looked at Sam Flanders in their first game, looked really good. Maybe not as good in the second, but still pretty solid. It's a really tantalising little watch how this St Kilda team will go. I'm fascinated to see if it will work, if the spend big policy works. And I mean, even if it doesn't, you can't ever write St Kilda off, I don't think, anymore, because Nashai Wanganeen-Malira can turn a game on his own. So this will be a fascinating match. Wanganeen-Malira versus Dacos, two people that are widely touted as probably top 5 players in the competition. Both midfielders, and it will be fascinating. On the Collingwood side of the fence, I think they're pretty fit, except for their key defence. That is their big issue right now. They really only have 5 key defenders on their list, I think, off the top of my head, and 3 of them are unavailable for this game. So that is a concern. And all 3 of those are probably going to be starters for them. 2 of them for certain, Darcy Moore and Jeremy Howe, both not playing. They're number 1 and 2 selected key defenders for them. And then Reef McInnes is also out for a number of weeks. The other 2 possibly back in either round 1 or 2, but Reef McInnes will probably be at least a month or so away, I think. But other than that, they don't have any other injuries. But it is very hard when you're missing that many key defenders to cover it. So they're going to be debuting who played key defence for them last week. I've forgotten his name already. Joel Cochran. Sorry. He'll likely debut. And It will be interesting to see how that shapes up. Billy Frampton will obviously be their fullback, and then they'll have probably a mix of Maynard and Quainer covering any other tools that go down there, playing that key forward role. So it's going to be interesting to see how they decide to line up with Collingwood. Does Josh Dacos continue his midfield role that he's played pre-season? I think he probably does, because they just need some young legs in there. Obviously, they've got Nick Dacos, and Ned Long's young as well. I get that, but more, you get what I mean. I think I make sense to myself at least. Chuck in DeGoey. Where will he line up if he plays? They've got some interesting decisions to make on what they want from this season and what players they want to be playing in what positions to best achieve those results. It's a match that I think on paper and on most ways St Kilda should win. I don't think they get any excuses in this game. I think they should be favourites going into this game, is my personal opinion. I wouldn't write either team off. It could go either way. I just have a few concerns about Collingwood, certainly early season. We haven't seen much of them. They had 10 players not playing in the practice game last week, and like 10 players that are in their best team. So it's a very different looking Collingwood team than what we're going to be seeing this week. So we just don't really know yet. Things could change. Things will be different. Who knows? But St Kilda have been looking good pre-season. Collingwood, we just have no idea. And I think the changes that St Kilda have made are enough to give us the thought that maybe they're going to be the team to beat in this matchup. Obviously, last year they met once in round 15. Collingwood did win it by 30-odd points. Looked good. But they met in 2024 pretty early at the MCG, and St Kilda won that one by 15 points. Before that, it was kind of a matchup that was dominated by Collingwood, as it has been over the history of this matchup. Like, Collingwood have a really good record against St Kilda. They always have. But this might be St Kilda's time to shine. So keep an eye on it. It will be an interesting matchup on Sunday night. I think it will be one that you should definitely tune into. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this season kicks off for season 2026. We'll jump into our footy tips for this weekend, our opening round tips. We'll be doing this every single episode, every single preview episode, and then we'll check how we went in the review episode afterwards. We're going Sydney on Thursday night to kick it off with a win. 13 points over the Blues, but I am not confident in either team. I think both teams are going to be quite good, especially early season. But I have high hopes, actually, high thoughts. I don't particularly like Sydney as a team too much, but I do believe that they're going to be quite strong this year. And I have them as a sneaky little minor premiership winning team. So keep an eye on the Swans this year. Gold Coast Suns by 21 points against Geelong. I just think they look readier. Readier? Is that a word? Might be, might not be. They just look ready to go in this one. A little bit more advanced in the pre-season than Geelong do, who are obviously trying to navigate a few injury concerns early season. So I think Gold Coast too strong there. Hawthorn, fitness is on their side. I've got them by 18. They could well win this by more. Obviously, GWS have won both seasons opening round match. Obviously, both of them against Collingwood. But Hawthorn, they just have fitness on their side. So we're going with them. Then Saturday night, we're going Brisbane by 15 with zero confidence. Bulldogs obviously having a big off season. They look good. They look like they're ready to go. Will they be able to convert that against the benchmark in the competition? I would not be surprised to see the Doggies win this one. In all honesty, it's probably the biggest swing game here, the one that I'm least confident about. I think Brisbane, just for a couple facts, like it's not as big a game for them, and also I feel like the Bulldogs are ready to go. So we'll see how that shapes up. And then for the Sunday game, we're going St Kilda to beat Collingwood. I think they should be favourites. I think they should be too strong. The missing 3 key defenders is huge. Collingwood last year, win-loss record with and without Jeremy Howe was completely different. They just really struggled last year without him. Maybe things have changed. Maybe some other players in that defence have stepped up into that sort of leadership role that can control that defence a bit better. But Collingwood's, struggled in that area. They also struggled clearance-wise last year, and they really struggled clearances against the Kangaroos last week. So that is another concerning factor. Whereas St Kilda is a team that's pretty good in clearances and probably get better with the adding of Sam Flanders and Tom De Koning into that starting midfield. It's going to be a dangerous team, St Kilda, and we're tipping them by the biggest margin of the weekend of 29 points. That's pretty much everything we've got for you in this episode of the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. I'm John. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't leave just yet. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow, depending what platform you're on. This podcast goes live twice every week on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, Mondays and Thursdays. So make sure you come back Monday and get the full review of all 5 of those matches. We'll have our Brownlow votes from the weekend. We'll have our best players. We'll have everything you need to know to wrap up the weekend. Also, go check out the social medias. We've got Twitter/X, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got Blue Sky. Go check them all out, All Aussie Rules. And I don't think we have too much else to go through. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure you jump in the comments and let me know who you think's going to win this weekend. I am always interested to hear what you've got to say, and we do once a week do comments of the week. So that will be on Monday's episode. So yeah, that's everything we got for you. Round 1. Oh, no, not round 1. Opening round is here. Footy is back. Hope you enjoyed the games this weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one.